The sound of rolling suitcases echoed across the pristine marble floor of Heathrow Airport. The departures board glowed with flights bound for cities across the globe, but one particular flight, headed to New York, carried a passenger whose journey would turn into a story whispered in headlines for weeks to come. Derrick Coleman walked through the first-class boarding gate with the calm assurance of a man who had conquered mountains most never dared to climb. Tall, broad-shouldered, with skin the color of polished mahogany and eyes that reflected both warmth and fire, Derrick's presence drew glances without him ever trying. His suit, custom Italian, perfectly tailored, spoke of quiet wealth. His wristwatch, sleek, understated, but worth more than a luxury car, was another subtle reminder of who he was. But beyond the material, Derrick carried something more powerful: dignity. He had built an empire from scratch, rising from a childhood of struggle in the South Side of Chicago to become CEO of one of the largest investment firms in America. He wasn't just rich, he was influential, controlling billions in assets and holding seats on multiple corporate boards. Yet, with all his achievements, he remained a man who demanded only one thing above all: respect. And on this flight, respect would be denied to him in a way so bold, so demeaning, that it would change the lives of an entire flight crew. As Derrick entered the first-class cabin of the Boeing 787 Dreamliner, the air smelled of fresh leather and expensive wine. Passengers were already sipping champagne, reclining in wide seats that transformed into beds with the push of a button. He settled into seat 1A by the window, offering him a commanding view of the runway. The cabin crew bustled around, welcoming passengers with smiles. Yet when the lead attendant approached Derrick, her greeting lacked warmth. Her smile faltered, her tone clipped. "Ticket?" she asked brusquely, though she hadn't asked the same from the white passengers before him. Derrick handed it over without a word, his lips curving in the faintest of knowing smiles. He had been here before, watched, questioned, underestimated, judged. He had no need to announce who he was. Time always revealed the truth. As the flight climbed into the sky, attendants rolled carts filled with delicacies: steak, lobster, truffle risotto, and fine champagne. Plates were placed in front of each passenger in first class, accompanied by soft-spoken apologies for delays or adjustments. But when the cart reached Derrick, something strange happened. The attendant glanced at him quickly and moved past, skipping his seat entirely. He raised a hand slightly. "Excuse me. I believe you missed me." The attendant, a blonde woman with icy blue eyes, didn't bother looking at him fully. "We've run out of meals," she said curtly. Derrick blinked slowly. "Run out? This is first class. Meals are guaranteed." She shrugged. "Well, not tonight. Maybe I can bring you some peanuts from economy." Several heads turned. Couple of passengers shifted uncomfortably, but no one spoke. Another attendant walked past and muttered under her breath, "Some people don't belong up here anyway." The words weren't meant to be heard, but Derrick heard them, loud and clear. He inhaled deeply, then exhaled. No anger flared on his face. No sharp retort came from his lips. He simply leaned back in his seat, his hands folding over his lap, his gaze steady out the window. The hunger in his stomach was nothing compared to the insult lodged in his chest. For the next 6 hours, Derrick sat quietly while others dined luxuriously. Some passengers threw him pitying glances, others avoided his eyes altogether. The crew continued their rounds, studiously ignoring him. Inside Derrick's mind, memories stirred. He thought of his mother, who used to remind him as a boy, "Derrick, people will always try to tell you where you don't belong. But the truth is, you belong wherever you decide to stand." He had stood in boardrooms where billionaires dismissed him, only to later beg for his partnership. He had been underestimated. In deals, only to outmaneuver his competitors with brilliance and grit. And now, on this plane, he was reminded once again, respect is the one currency that cannot be bought, but it can be demanded. When the wheels touched down at JFK Airport, the seatbelt signs chimed and passengers prepared to disembark. Derrick remained seated, calm as ever. The blonde attendant passed by one last time, smirking faintly. "I do hope the flight was still comfortable for you," she said, dripping with sarcasm. Derrick looked at her evenly. His voice was smooth, controlled. "Oh, it was. But for you, it's the last flight you'll ever work." Her smirk faded. As Derrick stepped into the jet bridge, two men in black suits were waiting. They weren't bodyguards. They were senior executives of the very airline. The crew followed behind, confused, whispering among themselves. Why were these officials waiting? One executive greeted Derrick with a respectful nod. "Mr. Coleman, everything is prepared as you instructed." The crew froze. "Mr. Coleman?" In a flash, whispers raced between them. Who exactly was this man? Derrick turned, facing the entire crew. His voice was calm, yet it carried the weight of authority that silenced the air. "My name is Derrick Coleman. I am the majority shareholder of this airline. Months ago, I purchased controlling shares. I wanted to experience firsthand how my employees treat passengers. Tonight, I got my answer." The crew's faces went pale. "You denied me a meal I paid for. You mocked me. And worst of all, you decided I didn't belong in a seat I bought with my own money. You judged me not by my ticket, not by my worth, but by my skin. That will never be tolerated under my ownership." He turned to the executives. "Effective immediately. Terminate the entire crew. Every single one." Gasps filled the space. The blonde attendant stammered, tears forming in her eyes. "Please, you can't. This is my career. I didn't mean—" Derrick's eyes hardened. "You meant every word. And now you'll live with the consequences. Respect is not optional. It is required." Security escorted the stunned crew away, their protests echoing uselessly. As Derrick walked through the terminal, other passengers, those who had witnessed the humiliation and the justice, watched in awe. Some clapped quietly, others simply nodded with respect. Derrick didn't bask in the attention. He wasn't interested in revenge for the sake of ego. For him, this wasn't about one meal or one insult. It was about principle, because respect, once denied, demands accountability. And on that night, Derrick Coleman reminded not just a crew, not just an airline, but everyone who heard the story, that true power is silent, patient, and strikes only. When it matters most, respect the person next to you, because you never know who they really are.